We are now live. My name is Hetal Doshi. I'm an organizational psychologist, and about a month and a half ago, I was told by my friends to stop being so commercially driven and to make sure I serve the community from a psychological perspective. So, 30th of April was the day that we started and we launched Mental Health at Work to serve the community and to support each and every one of you who is part of the group and beyond with regards to mental and emotional well-being in general, but also specifically at work. So as part of our service to all of you, we've decided that we will speak to thought leaders, we'll speak to experts, we'll speak to amazingly professional people, and also everyday heroes just like you and I. Today with me, we have Dr. Nicolas Grimaldi. I hope I'm pronouncing your surname correctly. And yeah,
Perfect.
okay. And he is the founder of One Osteo. From the very little that I know about him, I first chanced upon him because I saw a lot of people posting up things on his Facebook page, and there were a lot of love-related posts, meaning I love my doctor kind of posts. And I'd never really seen too much of that before. I think most of us would just go into a doctor and as quickly as we can, we come out of it. But there are so many amazing posts about how he is such an awesome person. And I did a bit of digging. I didn't know too much about osteopathy, but I did know a little bit about chiro. And so, from the very little that I found out, I thought maybe it would be amazing or a good opportunity to find out a little bit about what osteopathy does or an osteopath does. And one of the most interesting things that it does is to assess pain and also relief pain. And as we know, doctors themselves, without even the medicine or the techniques, they themselves can be the healers. So we have Dr. Nicolas here today. I thought maybe it would be wonderful for you to introduce yourself. Who are you, Nicolas?
Okay, so good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting me on this live stream. It's a very good opportunity to share about osteopathy and discover new people and like you, which is very nice.
Yeah.
So basically, I'm an osteopath. I did study osteopathy from 2001 to 2007. So it's 6 years full time to become a professional, and then you have a whole life to learn and understand about human nature. So I've been in Malaysia since the past 10 years. It has been 10 years since April 2020. And osteopathy is a holistic approach of the body. We don't use tools, we use our hands. It's the only tool that we have to sense, feel the different changes in the body, whether it's the texture, whether it's balance, movement, etc. So osteopathy is a very global approach. You talked about chiropractic. It's similar in that sense that we are manual healers or practitioners, like TikTok, like bone setters. It's just one form of medicine that has always existed through the humanity. The way osteopathy has been structured is simply understanding the body as a global system within which everything is interconnected and interdependent. So basically, one of the examples that I give to my patients is from a mechanical point of view, the body is like a Swiss watch. You have hundreds of little tiny structures that have a certain shape and are engaged in a certain movement to provide ultimately a precise time. If one of these structures sees its shape affected or its movement affected, potentially it will lead to a disruption of the entire system. So at the end of the day, you won't get a precise time. the body is the same. It's exactly the same because we fall under the rules of mechanics and physics.
Right.
The difference is that we are a biological machine. A biological machine simply means that we have life. And the only difference between a machine and a biological machine is that we can repair on our own. Mm-hmm. We have a consciousness to understand our own environment, and we have a vital system, healing processes that allow the system to repair. If you explode a tire on your car, you have to bring it to the car shop. If you break a bone, you will repair. So osteopathy is the approach of the body from a mechanical point of view, but also from a vital system point of view. We will help the body to restructure itself from a mechanical point of view, reorganize itself in the best movement as possible, but always also enhance the vital system, which is basically what Chinese medicine does. The Qi, they are very well oriented towards the vital system. So, yeah, also
Whoops.
Yes. Hello?
Hello. I think we lost each other there
for
a moment. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I thought you did.
Yeah, this is go ahead.
Okay. So hopefully there's not too much of technical difficulties. This is probably the first time that we're having it. But so what you're trying to say is that you use your hands. That is your tool. Is that correct?
Sorry, can you repeat?
Yeah, there's a bit of a technical glitch over here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay, so basically you use your hands as a tool, and do you use so do you basically do your diagnosis just utilizing your hands, or do you do diagnosis from other methods as well?
Well, we are a medical system, so we rely also on medical knowledge. So whether it's X-rays, whether it's all aspects of medicine are included in osteopathy. One of the fundamental reasons is that the first moment we see a patient, we have to decide if this patient can be treated in osteopathy or has to be referred to a medical practitioner. So we have to know medicine, at least the great fundamentals. We don't practice medicine, but we know how to recognize. For example, you take someone that comes for a back pain, but the back pain is due to a cancer that has not been diagnosed. You have to be able to say, this is not for me, I'll send you to see a doctor. You have to do some exams, and if they come back proper, then we can engage in a osteopathic treatment. So osteopathy, I always explain it's a medical art. So the medical aspect is the knowledge we have of the body from a medical point of view, physiological point of view, anatomy, etc. And then the art is how you use your senses to perceive the body. And we perceive it from with our hands, but you can't just cut yourself from the rest of your senses because your hands are connected to your body. You have to build a certain mindset to perceive things. So it's also smell. It's also all the senses are wired in a certain way that you will see things, perceive things differently.
Okay, so so am I correct to say that people will come to you pretty much when there is a pain? Is there normally a pain and therefore they're triggered to come to you, or is there a problem? And
yeah, fundamentally, it's I would say from a basic understanding, people will come when they have a pain. But once osteopathy is developed as an education, people will know that they can come for other things than just, I have a back pain, I'm going to see my osteopath. For example, I'm specialized in pediatrics. I'm specialized in women's health. A child that was born through vacuum of forceps, for example, there's no pain, or at least there's not necessarily something that you can relate to being a pain. But the child may have certain disorders. Vomiting, will develop a flat head, will have difficulties latching. These are all signs that potentially there is a mechanical disorder that will lead to a disruption of a function. Latching, for example, this is most of the time related to mechanical disorders. That's why we see babies, for example.
So, quick question. What are 3 things I can do to find out whether I have a mechanical disorder? What are 3 ways that I could tell that there's something wrong with my body?
Okay, it's very simple from life experience point of view. You have fundamental issues that will lead to imbalances and potential issues. So when we talk about mechanical issues, we talk about what has impacted this machine. And basically, it's all kinds of physical trauma. It's, first of all, your birth, how your birth has impacted you, forceps, vacuum, etc., etc. Any kind of accidents, car accident, fall, any kind of fracture, sprain, surgeries. These are the elements that will lead you to think that, okay, maybe there is something wrong with the mechanic. Whether you have symptoms or not, this is a different matter, because you may have had a fracture, but the body has repaired. And as long as the body can find solutions to adapt, you may never have symptoms. But maybe one day you have you wake up in the morning, you go to the toilet and you sleep in your bathroom, and you fall on your sacrum, on your back. And then a few months later, you will start to have issues. Issues that will be related with the accumulation of traumas, your fracture, and the fall you had. This is how the body works.
I can think of a million things right now that is not working with my body already. So I really like what you've said about the accumulation of physical trauma. Do you think also when it comes to pain, and well, let me rephrase it. I think how this is relevant to the workplace is because a lot of us at work, we could have a lot of accumulation of physical pain as well. The way that we are sitting, for example, is one of the leading causes of pain in the workplace itself, physical trauma that is accumulated over a period of time. You say that all of these physical symptoms and the accumulation of it leads to potentially physical aches and pains. I also really like your definition of pain. So if we can just pause for a little while, what does pain mean to you?
Okay, it's not what pain means to me. It's more what's the definition of pain.
Yeah.
Pain is a signal, an electrical signal from your nervous system. Nothing else. It's what we call a nociceptive message. So basically, your nervous system is like uh, um, highways. It's a network of highways, and this network of highways is meant to uh, get messages to travel from the brain to the rest of the body, and from the body to the brain. So this is what the nervous system is meant for. So it's a transmission of an information. When the highway starts to be jammed, then it leads to a signal, a higher signal to the brain that will receive an information that, oh, we have a jam forming on this particular highway. This is what pain is about. What we describe as pain is simply, I make it simple, but it's a jam on one of the highways. And if the body is not able to clear this jam, then the signal, the jam will build up, and the signal will intensify, will lead to a response from the structures that are linked to that highway, that part of the nervous system. Inflammation, spasm, etc., etc. And these are the expressions of what we call pain. And to go a little bit further, pain is just the word we gave to an existing physiological event. And pain, as you know, is something that is, first of all, linked to the individual, how you perceive pain, but also it's something cultural, based on the symbolic that is surrounds this word and concept of pain. So pain from a physiological point of view is one thing. Pain from a cultural point of view is something vastly different.
What do you mean by that?
What do I mean by that is that one may react to pain in a certain way because his cultural frame or symbolical frame will have a certain definition of it. You take someone with the same pain as the same signal, the interpretation of it will be different. Because we put a concept, a definition on top of pain, what we conceive as pain. So if you come from a cultural background where pain is maybe shameful, and it will be you will feel it differently than a culture that feels pain as a blessing.
Right. And what is your understanding about how Malaysians or people in Malaysia look at pain? Do you have any insights into how Malaysians as a community looks at pain?
I won't say Malaysians. I would say overall, first of all, we are in a world today that is way more sensitive than what it used to be. we have built societies which are meant to make you escape from pain, from a psychological level, from a physical level. I mean, think about it. 200 years ago, there were no cars, no planes. To go from Kuala Lumpur to Paris, you had to go through a painful travel. So we have developed societies in order to relieve us from constraints. And constraint is what leads to pain. So we have evolved from a psychological point of view in a very different world. So as a society in general, today we are much more sensitive to everything. You see people. I mean, think about it. We are in this period of a strange period of health, the worldwide health crisis.
Yeah.
It's painful.
Yeah.
But it's painful. But because we were born. I'm 38. We were born in a time where the world was not in pain. The last time we were in pain was World War II. And we went through a time where life has been very easy. We as I'm talking about myself from where I come from, we live in a bubble. We live in a place where nothing is difficult.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
the day you face a difficult time, it will be painful. But people that were born during a world war or a pandemic or whatever traumatic or difficult times, I mean, you take people that were born in a village where they have to work from a very young age in the fields, carrying stuff, walking tens of kilometers to find water. I mean, me, as a person, if I'm thrown in a village like this, I will not survive. And these people, well, they're cool, but you will be in pain. So that's what I mean about pain. And coming back to Malaysia, we grew up in an environment that will define our perception of this environment. If you think about the world that we are in today, kids grow in a place where everything is dangerous. You should not do this, you should not do that. Don't jump here, don't climb there, don't touch this. What kind of adult you are building like this?
Yeah.
If you were born in a culture that sees everything as dangerous, you will end up as an adult thinking that the world is dangerous, that everything around you won't do it. You won't experience things. So each time you will have the smallest pain, it will be the end of the world. So Malaysia, as simply an overall culture, has this print like this. And beyond that, we live in a frame now which we call social medias. I mean, think about it. What we see on social medias is people that break their nail and post it on Facebook to say, oh my gosh, this is the end of the world, I broke my nail. How do you think that we as a society, as people, we will understand the world if everybody think that breaking a nail is the end of the world? So that's where we are today. And Malaysia is one of the places where people are super connected, and I would say disconnected from the real world. People don't go in. Not a lot of people are exposed to nature. People are exposed to harsh lives. This is, but it's not just Malaysia. It's groups of people.
Yeah,
If you
absolutely.
are in Malaysia, you have people that don't need to work for a living and live in very nice places. And in Malaysia, you have people that have to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning to clean the streets.
Yeah.
It's the same country, but they don't live in the same environment of pain or hardship. So it's not Malaysia. It's some people have difficult lives, some people have easy life, and that's the world, and it has always been like this.
Yeah. I totally resonate with what you're trying to say. I mean, I have a niece, and I can just see, or I have a niece and a nephew, and I can just see that we interfere a lot with children's upbringing, and we do definitely make the world look like it's a far more dangerous place than it actually is. And really, the reason why we're talking about pain now is because of this concept of the butterfly that we want to talk about later as well, um, which I think is super interesting. And I think what you're also trying to say is that without pain, there cannot be any kind of growth. And so, pain for you is extremely necessary and extremely important. But I think the way that we interpret it obviously comes from very varied understanding of what it actually means as we are growing up into this funny world. So I wanted to ask you as well. In the past 10 years, have you seen more and more people getting more and more aches and pains and having more and more a need for medical support or coming to an osteo?
I would say the time frame of 10 years might be a little bit too short for me to realize such change in the society. People have always needed help, needed medicine in a form or another. Uh, Whether it's more or less, I don't think, I don't look at it from this perspective. You need something because you're exposed to it or educated about it. So people are more aware of what they can do if they have this or that.
Okay.
So in that sense, maybe when I came to Malaysia, osteopathy barely existed.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't need osteopathy. Today, they know a bit more. They need more osteopathy, but they had chiropractic, they had guitar, etc., etc. So I can't really answer your question from
Sure.
that perspective.
Right.
Rather than, I mean, people, we interact as a species. We interact together. So we all need something from someone else, and
Yeah.
health has been a need because it's a survival need.
Right. And what kind of pains do you see most of? Like most people come to an osteopath because of what kinds of aches or pains?
I would say, again, it depends on how how the population is educated. But overall, people would come for back pain, neck pain. This is, I would say, the most common reason why people are coming. And you were talking about the environment of offices. Um, the fact that we move less, we may be exposed to more issues because our bodies are moving less, our muscles are moving less. But one person sitting at a desk for 8 hours may not have issues. but his neighbor may have issues. So it might not be just sitting at the desk that is the source of the problem, but maybe a trigger, maybe an environment that will not facilitate the health from a pain point of view. But someone will develop an issue also because their machine might not be as balanced as their neighbor.
Right. Okay. So I think it's really interesting that you also support women who are having difficulty conceiving. I can understand backaches, I can understand neck pains, I can understand a lot of things. I don't understand how an osteopath supports women who are having difficulty conceiving. Could you share a little bit of light on that?
I still don't understand it, but I do it.
Yeah, like Nicholas, the reason why I'm asking you this is because, when we do all of our work in organizations, one of the most increasing rates of stressors that we are experiencing amongst women is infertility or difficulty in conception. And I'm just, big shout out to all my friends who are having any difficulties, because they go anywhere and everywhere to be able to get some support. So how does osteopathy kind of help that?
So I'm gonna answer from a global point of view again. Your machine is meant to perform, whether it's conceive, whether it's digest, whether it's grab something or create a movement. Your machine is wired or structured, balanced, in order to be performant through a proper balance of the structures and a proper balance of your nervous system. Okay? So overall, if something doesn't work, it's always because of the same reasons. Either it doesn't exist or it's deformed. If a woman has no womb, she will not be able to conceive. If a woman has a deformation of a womb, she will not be able to conceive. Maybe. So this is one of the reasons why, but it might not be the most common. Second, beyond that physiological aspect, maybe it can be a disease. You have a growth, cancer, a tumor, any kind of changes on from a biological point of view on that structure, on that machine, that will affect the function again. Then you have potentially the balance of these structures that may affect the way it moves and the way it functions through the nervous system.
Right.
And the reason why we can help women with conceiving disorders is simply because when you have these women going to see their gynecologist, you do tests, hormones, MRI, whatever. And many of them will come out and everything is fine. Everything works from a medical point of view, from an image point of view, from a blood test point of view. But yet they can't conceive. So it means it doesn't work. So why it doesn't work? Because these cases, it's a mechanical issue. It means the balance, whether it's the balance of the pelvis, the balance of the organs, will be affected to such an extent that the nervous system might not function properly and might not allow the body to conceive.
Right.
And I mentioned also the that's for the mechanical aspect, but I mentioned also the vital system.
Yeah.
Maybe our word, and maybe your system doesn't have the energy to implement an embryo. Maybe your system doesn't have the energy to produce an egg, to fertilize an egg. So this is where we work on these women. We use nothing but the same rules that we apply for anything. Is the machine balanced? Is the machine sustained by a strong vital system? So that rule applies for everything. Whether it's fertility, whether it's a back pain, whether everything. These fundamentally, it's the same rules.
Yeah. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Specifically, that maybe the system doesn't have the energy, and so you're bringing energy to it, and hopefully through that energy, it's able to get the machine moving again in the right manner. I wanted to also check in with you with regard to, energy is also, correct me if I'm wrong, but energy is also a lot to do with emotions, no? So
Yes.
Do you see any relationship between physiological symptoms and emotional symptoms, specifically because as a psychologist, we believe in all things emotions. A lot of it is emotions. So do you believe that a lot of the physical pain could be because of, psychological or emotional pain as well?
So yes, but it's not a yes as yes. It's linked to psychology. Again, I will look at it. Osteopathy is to look at the big picture. The question is, can we divide the body?
No.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. So can we separate the body from the mind?
We can't. No, we can't.
Exactly. Can you separate the body and the mind from the diet?
No.
We can't. So the question is not, is it psychological or physical or diet or whatever? It might be a mix of anything. And if it's physical, it will affect the emotions. If it's emotional, it may affect the physic, etc., etc. So you have. I will take an example of someone that I've treated many years ago.
Right.
We worked from a physical point of view, but fundamentally, she didn't want to have kids.
Oh.
And it never worked because fundamentally, she never wanted to have kids. And she was pressured by the family, by social elements to have a child. But she, as a person, she didn't want to have a child. So she got actually pregnant, but the body rejected the pregnancy.
Okay. So I love that one question. Can you separate the body from the mind? So absolutely not. Everything's all happening in synchronicity or in harmony or disharmony, either or. So thank you for that. That's really obviously super powerful.
Or not.
Otherwise, the medical practitioners, the psychologists, the osteos we're always going to be having a debate. But I guess we can conclude that we cannot separate, obviously, the body cannot be separated into psychological, emotional, physiological aspects. It's just one. So what would you say? What is a good thing to be doing so that
Exactly, and I want to add something. I will tell you another story. So when I have a woman coming to see me for fertility issues, I do my work. I show her what is wrong with the balance. I make her feel it, and she sees the differences. And we reach a point where I know the body is ready. And you know what I tell them? All of them. I tell them, and if it's not to them, I tell the husband, bring your wife on a weekend, make love, enjoy each other. Don't think about having a child, the pressure to have a child. Just enjoy each other. Make this life happen. And each time it works. And each time they felt pregnant, it was like this. Because if you are obsessed with we have to make love at 10:30 in 3 days because it will be the peak of my cycle, I mean, you're screwed up. I'm telling you, it doesn't work. It can't. And that's where the emotion, the mental health intervenes. You have to let go. We were talking about that, letting go. Because by letting go that pressure that you put on yourself, you embrace the possibility to let something come to you.
Wow, that was really beautiful. That was really beautiful. Thank you. Yeah.
And
So
there is actually a tribe in Africa that when the woman feels that she's ready to have a child, she doesn't go to her husband and say, okay, let's make love and we have a child. No, she goes to a remote place, a tree, and she sits there. She sits there until she hears the song that is the song that her child is singing. And once she hears this song, she goes back to her husband and she teaches the husband this song. And that's how they welcome a child, and that's how they conceive. So it's very, very interesting to see how the psychology intervenes there, how a belief system intervenes there. So we are just, I as an osteopath, am just a provider, a vehicle, a step in that process. But we have to include something else which is emotional and mental health.
That's super powerful. That's super powerful. To all my female friends, shout out. You know, in case you're going through a super difficult time, which I know there's so many going through this. Find the tree, man. Find the goddamn tree. Go listen to that song and tell your husband to sing that bloody song over the weekend and give you a good time. Yeah, I think it has become very clinical. A lot of things that I hear about these days, specific to conception, and maybe a lot of other things like, you know, treatment of cancer or treatment of anything else, has become so clinical and become so dry that I definitely love your approach of, I think hands as a tool is just on its own one of the most powerful things. It's the most heightened sensory experience. It senses things the sharpest more than anything else. So, and then combining that with a whole completely holistic and balanced way, I'm definitely a believer of that. I thought maybe it would be good to have a quick chat. We have maybe about 5-10 minutes about you as a person. So you're very philosophical. I had managed to have a chat with you just about 15 minutes before we got on for the first time. I've not known you before this. There are some things that I thought maybe I would share with the audience as well. One thing that you've said that has struck me the most is your childhood and your upbringing. And because of your upbringing, there was so much of freedom and so little fear. You've understood that at the core of us, we're all the same. It's just that at some point, something begins to separate us. Um, and you also talked a little bit about your obsession with collecting things and how you realize that an important part of this obsession is the need to let go. And this, when we try to let go of something, there's this fear of having to abandon it. But only when we learn how to let go, then we have that opportunity to let come certain things as well. You also said that you are trying to keep that freedom to access all of this by letting go. But I'm sure that there are times, and that's why you love the analogy of butterflies as well, which is super cool. Definitely a story for another day. But I wanted to know, even for somebody who is so philosophical, somebody who believes in pain and the ability to embrace it and the need to let go of it, has there been a time, or what was the time in your life that it was really, 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 really hard for you? Like it was like a black hole. It was really super hard. When was the time where it was the hardest for you?
Well, I had a very easy life. Honestly, I was born in a very, not a balanced family, but a good family. We never had financial issues. We lived in beautiful places. I mean, my life has been extremely easy. The turning point in my life was in 2015 when I was struck by some issues with work, and we went through a big crisis. And at that time, I was married, and things didn't go the way I was expecting or wanting, and I ended up having a burnout, but a real one, not like what people think burnout is. Okay, I'm tired, whatever. No, I had a real psychological burnout for 2 years. Um, I was in the darkest place I've ever been, and never wished to be. For someone like me, who's a very sensitive person, as the senses, I had no access to my senses. I had no feelings. I had no emotions. I had no conversation because I had no memory. I had nothing. Nothing. All was gone. And I destroyed my marriage through this burnout. And in complete honesty, this woman was, I mean, you built your life with someone, you decide to project yourself, your life, everything with someone, and suddenly you realize everything is gone, destroyed, and you are the root of this destruction for some reasons. And it took me 2 years. I will tell you that story because when we talk about pain, I went through pain, but again, it's very relative in that sense that there are people that have real problems in life and real pain in life. I was in my 30s. I have my legs. I have my health. I have my arms. I have my brain. I had a work, good salary, a roof, a fridge full. I don't think I had problems in my life besides whatever I went through. So the first wake up call was me remembering. So basically, for 2 years, I didn't even dream. I mean, again, since everything was gone in my memory, I was not able to link events together. So that's why I couldn't talk with people. I lost all my friends because I had nothing to tell them, because I was not able to build, to construct mentally links. And I remember that day, 2 years after, I had my first memory. And that memory was me catching butterflies, actually, in the Alps. And usually what I would do when I go in the mountains like this, at some point I would just sit somewhere and just observe nature. And that day I was sitting on a rock, observing the valleys in front of me, the mountains in front of me. And I did remember that the emotion linked to that particular perspective that I had was stillness, happiness. Like you feel happy, you feel still. And I was not able at that time to feel the emotion, but I started to conceive it. And it took me time, I would say, few more years to rebuild these emotions one by one, because I was not feeling them. I had to rebuild them artificially until the day I could start to feel them. I could start naturally to feel them because they were gone. They were all destroyed. My entire perception of my emotional links, it was all gone. And I was, as a person, I was in the worst place that I could be, and I was putting people around me in the worst place I could be. Thanks to my work and the fact that this work is meaningful, I stayed alive. Honestly, I stayed alive. For me, everything was gone. And basically, what brought me out of that cycle is the desire that I had to get out of it. And the decision you take in moments like this is to analyze things, is to observe things, and try to understand and comprehend why you feel like this, why things happen like this, and how you can build or rebuild a control on yourself, a control on these things. And that's how I went out from this. And again, it's a very personal moment of my life, and but I still feel unlucky because once again I had the freedom, and I had the freedom of choice. I could get out of it if I wanted to. And it's also one of the reasons why I did it, because I had the choice. And many people don't have the choice in this life. They were born in a slum, they will grow in a slum, they will never be able to get out of that slum, and they will die in that slum. Doesn't mean they might not be happy, but you see what I mean. They were born in a difficult place. They were born in a place where they don't have any grip on their future or changing their life if they want. And some they try so hard, but they will never be able to do it. So I felt compelled to kind of honor that luck I had in life, to be given so much, and that I could use and I didn't have the right not to do it because it was given to me, and to some people it's not given. So that's my story.
Thank you so much for sharing.
My pleasure. You know, one of the things that you learn in moments like this, and the aspect of letting go, you have to face reality. You have to face yourself, and facing people you can hide. Facing yourself you can't hide. So you have to build this ability to tell the truth and say it without pain or emotion, but as a fact. And this is what happened to me, and I have no issues talking about it because, yeah, it's just part of me. It's part of my story. It's part of what built me. If you ask me if I had the choice, I would not want to live this because I really didn't need that to build myself. But it happened, so no choice. You do it. That's it.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you so much for sharing. I think this often becomes this as in when our guests reveal themselves or share some of these darkest moments, this often becomes a place where you save somebody else who could be going through something that
I hope so.
yeah, that you've definitely, something that you've gone through, and the way that you've articulated it so beautifully. Because in that mess and in that chaos, we don't understand anything and there's no language for it. But having come through and having tried to make sense, you begin to articulate all these words and you try to make sense of what has happened. And I really love what you said, that there were no emotions. That you lost sense of any emotion, and you needed one by one to recreate an understanding of these emotions until you could feel it again. And that is a classic symptom of burnout. And the fact that you say this is not just the word that I'm using, this is a real burnout. Um, and I think most people don't understand it. Most people just say, like, just snap out of it, or yeah, you work too hard. Why did you do that? You should just, sleep for a day. You'll feel better. But what you've described is a super articulate way of expressing what actually happens when someone goes through burnout, and how the impact can go on to all the significant relationships in your life, the work that you've built in your life, and almost destroys you in order to recreate you as well. So super.
I will use another image to describe that, and it's taken from a French comedian, stand-up comedian. She has gone through depression and burnout, and she has a very nice artistic way of describing it.
Okay.
And she says, depression. She designs a house. When you are in a normal state, the house has a roof, straight walls, straight windows, and stuff like this. She said, depression, your house is a Picasso. And burnout, your house is exactly the same as a normal house from the outside. But once you open the door, everything inside is burnt. There's nothing left. And it's exactly what a burnout is.
Wow. Therefore the word, huh? Therefore the choice of word burnout. Except it's probably burnt in, because it's burnt from the inside. But we won't get into the technicalities of that.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
I feel like I feel like it is stories like this that make us connect, because before this it was all about osteopathy. But now I know you. Now I sense you, and I can imagine a lot of who you were, who you had to be, and who you've come out to be. And it's been an absolute pleasure knowing you, or at least some part of you. So thank you so much for revealing that. And I hope that anyone who's listening seriously benefits from it. And I'm sure that if you ever reached out to Nicolas, he would be more than happy to have a chat with you as well. Not from only an osteo, but a human being. And I think, Nicolas, this is what makes you amazing, and this is why people love you and people come visit you. Even when there's a relaxed MCO, everyone's still like, hey, I'm coming to see Nicolas. And I think if we don't go through this, then we will never be that person for other people as well. But I also wanted to shout out to all my friends who are friends, as in anyone who's here, anyone who's going to be a friend, and who's just generally a human friend, that burnout normally is a situation that you put yourself in where other things and other people matter more than you. And so that's not cool. Stop doing that. It's not cool. If you don't have enough energy, if you don't have 30% of your energy left, you are not allowed to work any further. You need at least 30% in your battery space. That is your God-given right. So keep your 30%. The maximum other people get from you is the 70%. And with this, I just wanted to thank Nicolas so much again for talking to us about what osteopathy means, for subconsciously talking about pain, and then finally talking to us a little bit about your transition as well. I wish you all the very best. Maybe, is there anything that you'd like to leave us with, or the listeners? Did you want to leave us with anything before we go?
I think one of the foreclosure, what we talked about is about pain and the way we perceive pain, which leads to changes. Pain has to be perceived as a process. It's a constraint rather than a pain, and you can't transform yourself without going through a constraint, physical, emotional, anything. So you have to accept this pain and word it, name it differently than pain, to be able to use it to transform yourself, because there's nothing worse than going through a life which is printed by pain because you are afraid to transform yourself. It's way more painful to never change than go through the painful process to transform yourself.
Mm-hmm. And when you say that we should name pain differently, how would you name it today, having gone through everything that you have?
Just a process. Just it's, you know, I look at life from a very biological point of view. So it's just part of the process. I mean, you don't reach Himalaya by just doing this, and no, you have to accept the
Process,
the journey and the process. And it's pain, and then what? What do you want to achieve? Where do you want to see yourself? How do you want to see yourself? What do you want to have in your life? Yeah, you have to work for it, and it's painful. Welcome to reality.
Well, welcome to reality, huh? So thank you so much for all of the wonderful sharing from a professional perspective, and more so feeling vulnerable and brave at the same time to be able to share your personal story. We'll take it offline. Would love to definitely connect in future, and always be somehow supporting each other from this funny digital world, at least.
Exactly, with pleasure. Anytime, I'm more than happy to do that kind of little exercise. It's very nice, and I guess people will tell me about it tomorrow. And it's
yes, we have a friend. We already have someone saying, Nicolas, hey, told this was very enlightening, wonderful stories. Thank you. So that's from someone who's listening in.
Thanks for all the people that I've connected, and Since we are practicing social distancing, if we have to say goodbye, I will say goodbye.
Okay, well, I return that back to you as well. Thanks, Nicholas. You take care. All the best. God bless.
You too. Have a good evening.
Bye.